are talking Dark Chronicles. This is a 4-story anthology movie being put out in 2021. It was actually originally released in 2019 as a kind of limited web series, but now curated into one anthology movie. I will say this is a very low budget anthology movie, so don't be expecting anything too flashy in regards to set pieces or special effects. As there is only short films, and there's only 4 of them, I will go into a little bit of detail about each one and we'll kind of talk about it. But briefly, I would say that there's 2 kind of fairly okay ones and 2 ones that I thought were weaker. They are curated by kind of a horror show host type character. He's not really has a story element to it. He's just there kind of to set the mood and to ultimately set up the stories. So let's kind of go through the stories one by one. Number 1, this is essentially a possession film. It focuses on this young woman who seems to be possessed, or at least she believes that she is possessed. And there is a priest type character there who seems to be sort of looking after her. And she's trying to convince the priest that she has kind of got a handle on it. She's beating this demon down and she is in control of her faculties, when in fact that may not be the case. And that is basically the plot premise of the first one. What can I say that works in this particular first one? I do feel the acting is fairly strong in this first short film. In fact, the majority of the entire anthology, I would say, is relatively well acted. This one, again, so the acting was okay. There are a sequence or 2 where I thought the actress playing the girl who's possessed did a decent enough job of writhing around, and it's plussed up with kind of audio effects to kind of sound spooky and everything that I thought looked okay. However, this to me was somewhat of a nothing story because there's actually very little story here. And there's no real setup in regards to how he got to this kind of situation. And the story that we do have is so slight. Ultimately, it's just a kind of a conversation almost between these kind of 2 characters that doesn't really feel like it's any story really. It's just kind of, it feels like it's a scene of a film. So there's not really much to this as in a story element. I have to say as well, it's very bland looking. The guy who plays the priest, he just looks like some guy. He's not even kind of wearing kind of priest clothes with a collar or robes or even a Bible. He just looks like some guy in a kind of like someone's apartment. So I have to say this one really does look like it's just someone that's got together with a couple of people and go, let's just kind of do this kind of like short film. It just feels like it was made for literally 0 money and hasn't had a lot of prep time because there's not really much story-wise and not much to stick your teeth into. So it becomes ultimately a nothing film with very little kind of to sort of say about it. Number 2, this is one of the ones I actually kind of liked a little better. And this focuses on a group of horror friends, really kind of fans of horror movies and such. And one of them has been conversing with this owner of an occult shop. So they decide that they're going to go there and check it out. And as they do, they meet this spooky shop owner who has a variety of different unique items, all of which he kind of likes to kind of tell these guys about. But she may have a sinister intent. Again, what will happen? Well, check it out. This one I liked because I felt it had a little bit more of originality to it. The actual story was, I think, a pretty good idea. Maybe a little bit of the execution wasn't so good, but at least the idea here was solid. This also benefited from having multiple locations, a little bit of a larger cast, and I think a little bit better in regards to set design and kind of props and things like this, because it looks visually a little bit more interesting. This one also had, out of all of the 4 short films, the most in regards to effects. We have a little bit of gore in this movie, we have a few on-screen kills, and we even have a creature of sorts, although I actually think they could have done without that, to be honest. The costuming in this one was pretty good, and the acting was okay. So this one was fairly good, fairly interesting plot. What doesn't work? Okay, so just going back to the plot, I do feel the idea is good, but the execution, how it was handled, wasn't particularly strong. Some things to me just seem like movie logic, even though this is just a short film. For example, we have our shopkeeper, she's up to something, but the kind of our 4 friends or however they are don't really seem to cotton on to weird behaviour, and the shopkeeper asking him to do things that, why would you ask me to do that? Don't even question it. I think if they had just questioned it and addressed it, then it would have been fine, but they don't. It's just kind of like, well, why are you asking me to do that? So this is kind of one of these things that just kind of glossed over. So there's a little bit of kind of poor setup in this movie, and then when it comes down to it, I think again, the story elements that are introduced don't quite match what we kind of see here on screen as well. The other thing I would say, this is more to do with the actual after the film. When we kind of finish the short film and we go back to our horror host, he kind of comments on it and goes, well, everyone got their just desserts. I'm like, did they? Because that kind of says to me like that the fate that the characters have in this movie was deserved. And I think that's not quite. I don't know if I would have quite have gone that and said that. So it's a little bit of a moral, question. You might not care about that, but it just seemed like, well, I don't know if I necessarily would have said that. Anyway, so yeah, there's a few story elements here that weren't so good. The mask, we see a kind of a creature design in this one. Again, I'm being vague, but I actually would have not even done that. The mask kind of looks just like a mask, like a rubber mask, and I actually think it would have benefited from the film if it didn't have it, to be honest, because it kind of looks a bit rubbishy and cheap. So yeah, this one wasn't a bad film. I think the idea was solid. Maybe could have, been a little bit kind of cleverer with its execution. The third one is a zombie film, and this one's actually set in the future, and it's about a group of people that are kind of trapped in a building, and there's a zombie in there. It's a nothing film again. We've seen plenty of zombie films. If you're going to do zombie stuff, you've got to now be a little bit cleverer with it. This one is dull. The characters are dull. Out of all of them, I think the acting is the weakest in this segment. The zombie doesn't look particularly impressive. There's not a lot of gore in this one. We're meant to believe it's the future because they've put up some plastic sheeting on the walls to kind of make it look, like a dystopian future or something. It's like, oh, come on. And at the end of it tries to have like a Walking Dead moment. It was weak. This, to me, I think was probably the weakest, to be honest, out of all of them, because there was just nothing to it. Again, nothing original, and I think it was fairly poorly executed. At least the first one had some decent acting. The last one, I think, is the strongest one. It probably is the longest running time, and with this one, it's essentially about a bar on a kind of a rainy night. There's a few patrons in the bar, and it focuses mainly on this young girl, or this young woman who kind of comes in, and then we get this guy that comes in, and they kind of strike up a conversation. The rub here is that both of these characters are hiding a secret, and this is kind of a crime / supernatural story. So this one I think benefits the most because it has the most amount of characterization. Now, I'm a big fan of characterization. It's part of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of anthologies in general. Because of the short running time of the films, you're never really going to get to know the characters all that much, with a few exceptions. And this one, having, I think, probably the longest running time out of all the 4 films, gets the most amount of characterization. And there are a couple of support characters, but it really focuses on these 2. So as such, you buy the characters a little bit more. Again, I thought the acting was okay here. I thought the actors did a decent enough job. I mean, for a low budget kind of straight to DVD movie, but you get where I'm going. It's acceptable acting. I think the thing here is it has quite a neat hook in regards to its story element. A little bit like the second one. This has an original idea. I think it's executed better than the second one, however. So, again, without kind of spoiling anything for you, we have these a kind of clash of ideals, shall we call it, and things are revealed, and motivations maybe not as apparent as they first appear. And I liked it. I thought it was clever and has somewhat of ambiguity still in the movie. When things are revealed, it still leaves some questions as to what exactly a particular character is. Could be one thing or it could be another. And it has a kind of quite a good ending to it as well. I don't think they quite nailed the ending. I was expecting it to be a little bit more poetic, is the best way I can describe it. Didn't quite go there. The only other thing I would say is that the set where this is in this bar. It doesn't look much like a bar to me. I don't know if it actually was, but it kind of looked a little bit not enough decor on it, if you know what I mean. It looks a bit plain, so I don't actually know it looked like a blank room. They did have a few more pictures on, and it didn't look much like a bar to me. But anyway, minor kind of issues with that one. I mean, again, it's not a flashy film. There's a little bit of an attempt at some effects, but they're not brilliant. But this one was entertaining. I think it had the least amount of problems in it. So that one was, in my opinion, the best one. So what do we think of this anthology as a whole? It is a lower budget film, but it's not particularly, you know, none of these films are particularly kind of flashy. There's a couple of okay ones, and I'm not saying they're brilliant, but they're just okay. I would probably put the last one at a 6, the second one at a 5, the first one at a 3, and the third one at a 2. So I'm going to go a 5 out of 10 in total for this one. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.